Thank you. The pumpkin wagon. So they're out in Elgin, just take Lake Street all the way. And they've got great deals. So it's a sister brother duo. They grow and they just sell them out there. But the nice thing is, like, for me, like it's got no petting zoo, no carnival, no. Yes, it's a lot of fun. They enjoy it. Like they have a little photo thing that you can do, but like that's it. So it's like fall. No, it's just like we go there, we pick out our pumpkins, go home.
And then this is a new vinyl water bottle sticker. I need to stick on your notebooks. I think.
So in lieu of the actual water bottle?
Right, you did one bottle last year. You can do the same stuff every year.
Oh, yeah.
These are for the low prices. This was like insect pleasures of pencil and gosh, I don't remember the second one. And then this little keychain. Got the crap on it. I just like that. I think it's great. Branded.
All right, the time is 7 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Mayor Pileski,
Here.
Della Penna,
Here.
Adamki,
Here.
trustee Forsythe,
Here.
Neeson,
Here.
Here.
and trustee Trejo.
We have a quorum. We'll move on to presentation of the prepared agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Any abstentions? That motion carries. We'll continue on to Village Board public comment. Anyone wish to provide a comment on a topic or an agenda item may address the Village Board in person during the public comment and public hearing segments of the Village Board agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. The Village Board also adopted the Illinois Municipal League Civility Pledge, which states, in the interest of civility, I pledge to promote civility by listening, being respectful of others, acknowledging that we are all striving to support and improve our community, and understanding that we may each have different ideas for achieving that objective. Madam Clerk, do we have any witness slips submitted in advance?
I'll just call your name and you can come up to the podium and state your 3 minutes. And I apologize in advance if I don't pronounce names properly. David Tumanaro. Okay, we'll pass you. Margaret Przjalski.
And if you don't mind, just make sure the microphone's adjusted appropriately for you so everyone can hear you, and just state your name for the record when you're ready.
I hate public speaking. All right. Hi, my name is Margaret Przjalski. Do I have to give you my address and all that?
Nope. No.
Okay. Good evening. I stand here today deeply concerned about the lack of transparency surrounding the proposed cell tower at the Park District. As residents, we were not properly notified. This proposal was not posted in the Roselle Reporter. It was not in the village website, and no direct communication came from the Park District itself. This raises important questions. Did this process comply with Roselle's own rules and procurement? It appears no competitive bids were taken, no alternative options were explored, and no public decisions occurred before discussions were set in motion. The Park District has claimed that letters were sent to all neighbors. However, I can confirm personally that this is not true. Many households never received a letter. In fact, most only heard about it word by mouth when we all got together. This is not through official channels. The only letter I received was from the company called Insight, and I asked, who is Insight? Why was the first and only communication from a private company instead of our own village or park district? We as residents deserve transparency and alternatives. What other sites were considered? Why was no effort made to explore different locations, especially those not in residential neighborhoods and not near the school? I want to stress that I've already sent formal letters to all of you on August 14th, 2025, outlining my concerns. Today, I respectfully but firmly beg this village to consider this plan. Please take a step back, involve the community, and seek other locations that do not jeopardize our neighborhoods or the safety and character of our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do want to clarify a few things. I think there's some confusion. This is a private project, so we are not bidding out or seeking or soliciting anyone to do this project. They are an applicant for this, so that is why there's no bidding process or whatnot in that regard. As far as notice, prior notice was done per our ordinance. The village reporter is not a valid form of public notice. I'll ask our community development manager to discuss and explain how we didn't notice the applicant.
So the zoning ordinance outlines how public hearings are noticed to the public. There was a sign put on the property, a notice in the newspaper, and letters were mailed out to all property owners within 350 feet of the site. And this all happened 30 to 15 days before the meeting.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next we have Sylvia Pasquini.
And again, if you don't mind, just state your name for the record in the microphone. Just make sure it's adjusted so everyone can hear you clearly.
I'm gonna have to put my granny glasses on, sorry. Pretty spotted. Good evening, Mayor, trustee, and fellow residents. My name is Sylvia Pasquini. I am a resident of Roselle, a retired teacher from Spring Hills, and currently a paraprofessional at Roselle Middle School. And yes, I did have him in 4th grade, so, which is kind of fun to be here, to tell you the truth. I'm here tonight to respectfully urge you to not approve the construction of the cellular tower. After a 3-2 vote at the Park District meeting, I thought the topic was done and our voices were heard. I was sad to see it was on the agenda. This proposed location raises several critical concerns for me and should for the rest of Roselle. Property values is first. Studies shown across the country consistently show that the presence of a cell tower near residential areas can negatively affect property values. Families looking to buy homes often see a tower as an eyesore or a potential risk, and the hesitation translates directly into lower offers and a hard time selling. Approving this tower could mean a financial loss for families who have invested their savings into making Roselle their home. Second, health concerns. While research is ongoing, there is still unresolved questions about the long-term effects of living near cellular towers. Many residents are understandably worried about constant exposure to radio frequency emissions, especially when children are involved. That bothers me. I thought I'd be fine. Just a moment. Placing a tower so close to a pool where kids spend their summers and Roselle Middle School where students spend most of their days unnecessarily heightens this concern. Shouldn't we err on the side of caution when it comes to the health of our community's children? As technology changes and signals become stronger, shouldn't we be cautious? Third, community character and safety. Kemmerling Pool and the surrounding area are meant to be a space for recreation, family, and learning. A tower, industrial structure will change the character of this neighborhood, making it feel less welcoming and more like a utility site. Once it's built, we can't take it back. And a metal tower with metal leaves is still a metal tower. I fully understand the need for improved technology and reliable service, but surely there are alternate locations better suited for this tower, areas that do not compromise the health, safety, and property value of our families. As a lifelong educator, I taught students to use their voice when something doesn't feel right. Tonight, I'm using mine. On behalf of my neighbors and students and the children who play at Kemmerling Pool, I urge you to stand with us and vote no. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Marcia, sorry, go ahead.
I was just say, just for a point of clarification, the 2 to 3 vote happening at our Planning and Zoning Commission, they are a recommending body only. They are not a final action. So that is why it's before the board here tonight. So, thank you.
Marcia Tumanaro?
And if you don't mind, just we're gonna get tired probably of me saying, state your name for the record and just make sure the microphone is clear.
Yes, hi. My name is Marcia Timonero. I live on South Prospect across from the proposed tower site. I also spoke at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on August 5th, and I support the commission's rejection of this proposal, and I urge the board to uphold it as well. This proposal has 3 major defects. The first is lack of due diligence. Vertical Bridge's proposal relies heavily on Verizon-sponsored coverage maps. There is no independent radio frequency study, third-party engineering review, or appraisal of local property impacts. Instead, we see the assertions of one vendor. The Telecommunications Act requires substantial evidence, and courts have made clear that generalized statements or carrier-prepared maps alone do not suffice. The analysis of alternatives is also deficient. The wastewater treatment plant was briefly referenced, but then just dismissed. Small cell systems were rejected without providing any technical modeling or cost analysis. There was no review of industrial or commercial corridors, and rooftops or utility pole attachments were also not evaluated in this proposal. The Park District admitted at the last meeting to accepting the proposal after Vertical Bridge approached them, meaning they broke their own procurement rules by not requiring bids and RFPs for the public project, based solely on Verizon's materials with no independent review or competitive process. This is not the thorough review expected under federal or state law. Accepting a single vendor proposal without independent verification risks an arbitrary decision which courts have struck down under, again, the Telecommunications Act. Second, environmental impacts are ignored in this proposal. The monopine structure relies on synthetic branches, but the proposal lacks information on material composition, UV durability, end-of-life replacement, or any plans to mitigate plastic degradation over time. Exhibit C of the proposal notes tree removal, but no assessment of debris affecting Roselle's notoriously struggling stormwater runoffs, waterways, or other long-term effects on public parkland. Under Illinois law, parkland is held in trust for the public, and the Park District has a duty to protect it from foreseeable harm. This proposal, again, falls short. Third and most concerning is the threat to our property values. The proposal claims no adverse impact, but submits no appraisal or any supporting evidence for that claim. I'm here to submit 3 peer-reviewed studies showing measurable declines in home values near towers, as well as a survey of how towers affect the property's desirability to consumers. A 2017 study analyzed over 23,000 home sales and over 149 tower sales in Mobile County, Alabama, finding average losses of 2.5% within 2,400 feet and nearly 10% when towers were visible. A 2019 Savannah, Georgia study found a 7.6% decline within 1,500 feet. A 2007 New Zealand study documented up to 15% decline within 1,000 feet. And the survey in 2014 revealed that out of 1,000 participants, both US and abroad, 94% reported that nearby towers would negatively impact their interest in a property and the price they would be willing to pay. And 79% said that under no circumstances would they buy or rent a property near a tower.
3-second warning, ma'am.
I would like to present this packet to the board for review, if that is okay.
Thank you so much.
Leah Lescober?
If you don't mind, just please state your name into the microphone and make sure that it is adjusted so everyone can hear you clearly.
My name is Leah Lashover.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, and I'm going to say too, mine, because I did most of the research on this, is going to be probably over 3 minutes, but I am also speaking on behalf of the 3 minutes of my husband and of Ralph and of Aunt Ginny. Okay? So as we've stated before, we have a group of, people and we kind of divided topics not to repeat ourselves. So I will say I was disappointed after reading the village document regarding the cell tower of the special use permit, as it appears the village did the bare minimum in order to satisfy the concerns of the zoning board to validate granting a special use permit. The zoning board has had and has vast knowledge of telecommunication industry, and their opinions and concerns deserved more, a more thorough investigation. With regards to the document that was submitted with the meeting minutes, there are a few things that I'd like to comment on. One, more than 12 residents would have spoken during that meeting, but the facilitator at the meeting asked us, out of respect for the time of the zoning board, that if there were concerns that were already mentioned, that we were not to come up and repeat ourselves. Two, the statement that says, as this authority rests with the FCC, I'm disappointed, because if this authority did some research, they would definitely not be aligning themselves with the FCC. They would rather be aligning themselves with numerous state and federal legislators, representatives, the Government Accountability Office, and the U.S. Court of Appeals that are all pressuring the FCC to stop ignoring science. Especially the science that highlights children's vulnerabilities, long-term exposure, wildlife, and non-ionizing or non-thermal health effects. 3, under the alternate location heading, it is stated that feedback from the residents and the Park District confirmed that service in this area is weak to non-existent, and that is untrue. Residents from the area that are right by the pole, and you can watch the YouTube video, they all stated they had 2 to 3 bars of service. The residents that were south of that area, near Crestwood, were the ones that said that they had 0 bars. 4, it specifically noted in there that no representative from D12 attended the meeting, which is also untrue because Mrs. Pasquini, who is a parapro at D12, did come and attend the meeting. 5, under the Telecommunications Act of 1996, I feel like it should have been mentioned more in layman terms for the public that we do have the authority to prohibit location of the cell tower by denying this special use permit, because our zoning ordinance specifically states that cell towers are not permissible unless we grant them a special use permit. Therefore, we absolutely do have the right to prohibit this cell tower being placed next to the school, the pool, and our park. I'm going to assume that that this group, did some homework, but I'm also going to go over a lot of procedural, legal, and scientific evidence and information that you guys might not have been aware of. Quite honestly, I wasn't either. It was grueling, enlightening, aggravating, and one that I probably spent 60 hours doing. Being of short notice, I apologize for not being more organized. We all know the FCC has not updated their guidelines for the RF exposure since 1996. Without any research, a reasonable person can conclude that it is unreasonable to believe, with 30 years of evolution and scientific studies, that no revisions regarding the safety to the public are necessary. Just think of the additional safety features of vehicles in the past 30 years. Many will cite our government's history with the tobacco industry when we discuss this topic. Do you really think that the FCC and IEEE made guidelines that include putting 5G cell towers on light poles outside somebody's second floor bedroom? History. 2012, Government Accountability Office formally requested the FCC to reassess their exposure and testing guidelines. 2013, FCC formally announced the notice of inquiry, in which the public, science community, legal community could submit documentation, scientific studies, and personal health testimonies for review. It took them until 2019 to conclude. Also, the FCC did state that they are not a health agency.
30-second warning.
All right, I'm going to use somebody else's 3 minutes. FCC stated that they are not a health agency and requested the FDA to review submitted documents pertaining to health. 2019, FCC concluded that their existing 1996 exposure guidelines were sufficient, citing consultation with the FDA. FDA concluded there was no scientific or credibility of the scientific data. After the FCC and FDA blatantly ignored science, They were sued by the Environmental Health Trust and the district and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit ruled against the FCC in 2021. The court stated the FCC's arbitrary and capricious decision to maintain their 25-year-old exposure limits did not address evidence indicating non-cancerous harms such as impacts to children, testimonies of persons injured by wireless radiation, impacts to the developing brain, impacts to the reproductive system, non-ionizing RF exposure, health conditions, and impacts to wildlife and environment.
We're at time if you'd like to wrap up.
Okay, well, I'm gonna now speak on behalf of,
I need them to come up though, because that's not how
Okay.
it works. It's not like court where you can kind of cede authority to someone else and whatnot, so.
so state your name and I'm using your 3 minutes.
Jake Tumanero.
Okay, the court ordered the FCC to provide reasonable determination as to whether the evidence warrants a change to the guidelines in regards to children's vulnerability, long-term exposure, impacts to the environment, and whatever. The majority ruling also stated that they didn't have any medical, I think I already said that part. So New Hampshire was also disgusted with the FCC's lack of oversight. And they did House Bill 522, which they authorized the commission to also research this on their own since the FCC was not. Some of their questions was, why does the insurance company have exceptions for RF exposure? So the FCC and the FDA do not recognize non-thermal or non-ionizing radiation effects when assessing safety to human health. They only recognize harm if it heats your body through thermal heating. So pretty much if it cooks your body. If it doesn't cook your body, it's not harmful. There is vast amount of peer-reviewed scientific studies on the harmful effects of non-thermal and non-ionizing radiation, which shows strong inclination to causing a vast number of health issues, including cancer, leukemia, brain tumors, neurological, breast cancer, early dementia, fertility, sterilization, birth defects, miscarriages, behavioral epilepsy, diabetes, and many more. Somebody else here will be discussing more on health. A monumental 10-year study was recently completed in 2019 that found from the National Toxicology Program that found clear evidence of non-ionizing RF exposure causing brain and heart tumors. Numerous studies have been conducted on children's vulnerability, and most all of them conclude that setbacks to schools and hospitals should be at minimum 500 meters away. The placement of this cell tower will be 260 meters away, which is clearly in the danger zone. There is so much pushback on this issue from the science community and state legislatures. The whole Ohio House of Representatives wrote into the FCC, New Hampshire, Connecticut, that the FCC will not be able to hide this clear science much longer, especially as it pertains to children. It is not a matter of if there will be future setback guidelines, it's a matter of when there will be setback guidelines for schools. Will we then spend the money on lawyers to fight its removal? If we grant the special use permit, this tower will be grandfathered in. How will you feel about putting at risk every single child in District 12 that attends public school? How will you feel about aligning yourselves with the FCC and acknowledging the vast and not acknowledging the vast amount of science that is right now publicly available to you? How will you feel when those students develop health issues that you could have prevented by just choosing a location outside of the 500 meters? Another couple of items. There has been recent lawsuits, and those lawsuits have used the ADA, the Americans Disability Act, to remove the cell towers.
Your second 3 minutes is expired.
Okay. And Ginny, oh, there, I got somebody.
Ginny Tumanero.
Thank you.
So another couple items, there has been 2 recent lawsuits, and obviously we can't combat the TCA, but they have used the Americans Disability Act to remove the cell towers. Not sure if you realize, but there is a diagnosis that is called EHS. It's electromagnetic hypersensitivity. And if somebody has that diagnosis prior to being affected by a cell tower, they are able to then bring lawsuit based on that. Are there going to be any children coming through Roselle Middle School that might have this diagnosis in the future? Are we going to have legal repercussions and financial be able to back that financially and be able to fight that. The other thing is when these setbacks come into light, because it is not a matter of if, they will happen. It's not only the home values that will be decreased around that cell tower. Who's going to want to live in Roselle that's going to start a family and put them at a school 200 meters away from a cell tower? What young teacher is going to want to work at a school 200 meters away from a cell tower, especially when they decide that they want to be pregnant? It won't only be home values decreasing near that cell tower. All homes will decrease in value in District 12. We've had a lot of poor decisions in District 12, in Roselle. I mean, everybody still talks about the airport. This will be monumental. Now, the other thing too that I found when I was doing some research that I was surprised at, the FCC and the FDA do not believe that non-ionizing radio frequency causes health effects. They do not acknowledge it. Yet, when I was doing some research, I happened to stumble upon a new device that the FDA just recently approved, and it's called Therabionic P1. It's a device for terminally liver cancer patients. And guess what? It uses low frequency radio waves to biologically change cells. It pretty much just says that they're captive, right? And they're not acknowledging science, but they are acknowledging science on this device. We also cannot be arbitrary and capricious, which is what the appellate court ruled the FCC was. We cannot also ignore science like the FCC and the FDA. We need to protect our children in this community and also not blindly trust that the FCA and the FDA have our health and our children's health prioritized over the wireless industry, because they clearly do not. I'll give it an analogy here of Dope Sick. And it's episode 1. Michael Keaton is up in that courtroom testifying and really kicking himself for not using his own brain. He knew that that opioid and that Oxycontin was not meant for moderate pain. This is the same case. This is also going to be historic. It is quite apparent that they are a captured agency. And as that captured agency is written about in Harvard Law Review, and it's a public document that you can look up, we must be critical, independent thinkers on this issue of placing a cell tower next to a school. For the first cell tower that we're going to put in a residential area, let's not put it next to the school. We must take a precautionary approach, which in the US, we always take a reactive approach. But it is a statutory requirement in some areas of law in the European Union. And they have an ethical responsibility to act. If the community still wants to place a cell tower in a residential zone area, at the very least, let's not affect every single child in District 12, which could be thousands, that attends public school.
Your third 3-minute allotment is up.
Let's place it where the number of people and children risk is at minimum. I urge you at the very least to postpone this vote and do your homework.
Thank you.
Yep.
At this time, I need to remind the public that under FCC law, the village and all municipalities are prohibited from considering the health impacts related to RF emissions as this is legislated. So all the legislation that's going on in other states or whatnot, if we were to use that as the grounds for any dismissal, that would wind us up in federal courts. The federal courts could compel the village to have this approved and built expeditiously. So I want to make that very clear that RF emissions is prohibited under federal law from being considered as a means to dismiss a application of this type. Thank you.
Yaroslav? The last name is difficult. Gnatyuk?
If you don't mind just stating your name clearly into the microphone and adjusting it to make sure you can be heard.
So my name is Yaroslav Gnatyuk, and I wanted to speak about this issue. I believe we are at a historical crossroads in this village. There will be a before and after, and I hope that it would be positive and good for everyone. And so I wanted to talk about three things: location, health, and property values. I believe that there were some things left out in the meeting minutes and didn't talk about property values, and I believe other people said some of those things. But before that, I wanted to say about the location. Number one, many communities outside of Roselle have formally rolled out setbacks for cell towers. Communities such as in Massachusetts that said no wireless antennas within 3,000 feet of schools and within 1,500 feet of homes. Such as Sallisaw, Oklahoma, no wireless cell tower within 1,500 feet, and even in Calabasas, California, no wireless cell tower within 1,000 feet of any homes or schools. All of these communities from coast to coast have recognized harm and decided to protect the rights and the safety of their constituents. I strongly recommend that Roselle roll out a setback rule to protect us. Currently, this proposed tower has a setback length of 88 feet, which is almost nothing. The shadow zone of the tower goes from 0 to 150 feet, and anything goes beyond that is in high radiation. So I have this picture here, which I will pass to everyone, so you could see. You could see the green. This is where most of the radiation will affect us. So, and most people are in that zone. Also, as an engineer in industry, when there is experimental technology or there is something that is not well understood, typically most organizations tend to follow a precedent or best practices just to be out of caution and to, to protect those that they are representing. And these mentioned examples should be a primer for Roselle to follow. Secondly, the proposed tower location is currently in the Special Flood Hazard Area, SFHA, based on the firm flood insurance rate map, panel 52 of 287, revised on August 1st, 2019. The Special Flood Hazard Area is subject to inundation by the 1-inch annual chance flood or 100-year flood known as a base flood. My understanding is nothing should be built in the Special Flood Hazard Area. So what makes this so special? In addition, it would probably prohibit any access to the water if it's flooded. Thirdly, in the August 5th, 2025 meeting, the representative from Vertical Bridges mentioned that Verizon would prefer to put the cell tower on an existing building. I would suggest, and I'm going to skip some things, but I suggest probably the best location would be the Meacham Grove Forest Preserve. As was mentioned before, most neighbors have 2 or 3 bars around the Kimmerling Park, but if you go further south, there's less signal, and in the Forest Preserve, I think you can get away with protecting the people who are further out, and it would still reach the coverage that you're looking for. Fourthly, there was nothing stated for provision on language of ordinance with testing requirements. Other locations, such as in New York, Scarsdale, pre-testing and post-installation testing should be demonstrated for actual compliance with FCC radiation emissions guidelines. Not just that we're just going to set it and forget it, but we're actually going to test it. In Copac, New York, there's even balloon testing within 35 days of application submission. The electromagnetic emissions must comply with the limits. If the limits are exceeding allowable FCC radiation, then the Planning and Zoning Commission shall schedule a meeting and have a hearing and have the power to revoke the permit of the operation. I know that this may be still evolving technology, but nobody should be bullied to make a bad or a quick decision. And I ask that you do a very thorough research on this subject so later there won't be any regrets or finger pointing. I challenge you as the board to exercise your civic duty to the constituents and contest the imposed decision of installing the cell tower at 400 South Prospect Street. Lastly, a second point, I'm sorry, about health. I will only say anecdotal evidence. This is a cease and desist order from the town of Pittsfield, Massachusetts, where a 120-foot Verizon cell tower was put up, and there is evidence of residents getting damage and having physical and issues. So I would pass this. So there is evidence of that. I'm not making that up. And finally, the property values, which was also stated, but I like to get more examples, and that was a peer review article from the Journal of Real Estate Finance and Economics in 2018. Stated properties were located within 2,300 feet of the closest tower, revealed significant welfare costs with values declining from 2.5% on average up to 10% for 10% for homes and tower visibility.
Expired, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay, and the last thing is I have 10 letters from real estate agents saying that it does affect the property values, which I will give you in a moment.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
Can you state your name for the record then, ma'am?
Lorraine Gallion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so I have 10 letters that I found from real estate agents that have said, based on their empirical evidence and anecdotal evidence, of course, that there is an effect of homes ranging from 10 to 20%. And it obviously concerns the people who are the closest, which would be me and the neighbors who presented this. And we don't think that it's fair to us that if we get to suffer in the sense that our property values are going to get impacted. Also, there was another study by the appraisal company that prepared a 2017 report on the impact of communication towers and equipment on nearby property values. And in there, the estimator, who had 30 years of experience, said that the values, I read here, this appraisal was used to say, in all my years of special appraising conditions, a proximity to cell towers of all types, including cell towers, wind turbines, electrical transmissions, has an impact on property values. And this appraisal was used in the Smart Communities Siting Coalition, which is comprised of the local governments and associates that represent about 1,900 communities across 10 states in America here, which is roughly 30 million residents. And another article published in the International Journal of Housing Markets and Analysis on cell towers and property value found significant impacts of proximity to cell tower base stations on residential property sale prices. The closer a residential property is to the cell tower, the higher the impact on the residential sale price. And so finally, I wish and I want every one of you to understand that this is so near and dear to us who are the constituents, and you are representing us. And I believe that you should have the ability to do good, not only for those that it maybe has a value, but for everyone that is affected by this. After all, we are people, and I think we all want the very best for each and every one of us. We want to be home with our children, and we want to enjoy the village, the opportunities that Roselle has, and the beautiful sites that we have. And I think it's very important that we not forget that and be focused on doing our civic duty. Thank you so much.
So much.
David Tumanaro?
Yep, and then make sure, yep, you got it.
I got
They're
it.
a quick audience.
All right, my name is David Tumanero, longtime resident of Roselle, 1955. I'd like to first thank you all for giving us the opportunity to air our views and concerns on the cell tower construction on this recreational park. I stand before you not just as a resident, but as a passionate advocate for the preservation of Kimberling Park as a recreational park only. You have heard the different concerns and studies from everybody here of the tower, that the tower may affect the environment and the effects on the home values and the safety and concerns. I'm not going to go through all that. On the school children and anyone using the park for recreational purposes. I'd like to ask the board a question. If the property of this park was donated or if it was purchased. Now, I don't know that this is going to make a big difference, but does anybody here know that?
It's Park District is an independent body, so we wouldn't have.
Okay, well, I mean, it was donated, I think, and I can't find the concrete whether it was purchased or donated, but I believe it was donated, and it was donated, and I want to know if the park district, or yeah, I think it's the park district, if this was donated specifically for the intention, the property, the specific, as a recreational park. And if that's the case, I think we should keep it as a recreational park and not pose anything on that park and take away from the park as a tower would do. And I'm not an advocate for not having a cell tower. I like to have, the bars, and I do, but I'm saying that the cell tower is not needed in this location. I think we should have a cell tower to help out the people that are having problems. And I think the cell tower should be placed. And I think it was mentioned that it put it at the Forest Preserve, because that is the perfect location for that and really addresses the people who really need it. I think it's great. And I think that should be pursued. In conclusion, let us stand firm in our belief that Kimberling Park remains a place of recreation and community enrichment. Let us protect it, not just ourselves, but for the future of the families and the generations yet to come. Together, we can keep Kimberling Park a cherished recreational space. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other members of the public that wish to address the board at this time? All right, if you just approach the podium and state your name for the record and just make sure you speak clearly into the microphone. Our friends at home, though, can't hear you necessarily.
Okay, my name is Rick Maher, and I want to talk about a totally separate issue. But before I do, I'd just like to address, kind of follow up and cut through all the minutia of what was just said. A lot of great things being said, but a lot of it, the bottom line is I think that issue needs a lot of discussion, obviously, and I'm going to leave it at that. But I'm also going to ask, how many of you have these? Stand up, please. That's good. Turn around. Turn around. Where's your cell phone? Okay. I was an electrician for 40 years. I'm retired. I know a little bit about, we could talk about the power lines going down Menching Avenue. You know, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of evidence. You're worried about kids? How many kids carry one of these? Mine did. The science is still unclear about what this does to people. I just want to point that out with everything that's being said and just wrap it up by saying it needs a lot more discussion. Okay. Now, the issue, you know, speaking of safety, I have a big problem with e-bikes. I think this community has a huge problem with e-bikes. And I went to the police department a few weeks ago, and forgive me, are you the chief? Okay. I talked to a policeman that I live near Lake Park High School.
East or west? I assume west. Though.
West.
Thank you.
And I had said 2 weeks ago, not to sound like a prophet, that it isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when somebody's going to get seriously hurt or killed on one of these e-bikes. And if you've been following the news, I think it was last week in Arlington Heights, 16-year-old kid. Okay? A lot of these vehicles, first of all, I don't totally understand the laws. I think they're too vague. I've had some kids tell me that they're allowed to have them on Park District property and or Lake Park. My wife has twice almost been run over by these e-bikes. My personal view is you should be licensed, and in order to get a license, you should have to have a class like you would for your automobile license. And there should be huge responsibility put on the operator of this bike and the parents. And I think there should be laws with teeth, not a little $50 fine, about $500 fine. And that's just my opinion, because too many of these vehicles are being operated by kids who are not 16. I guarantee it. And more people are gonna get hurt. I understand there's a kid now, I was told, that may never walk again. And you have them on the sidewalks. Some of these are big. They cause a lot of damage. And also, I noticed at Goose Lake Park, and to give you a visual, there's a little sign at the park about as big as that sign under the notice sign, telling you about the rules. I guarantee nobody would read it. Nobody. If you're gonna put a sign up, put something about yay big with the words warning, like it says there. Notice, something that can be seen, because these kids, they don't even know what the laws are, and they sure as hell don't care. I've had them ride down the public sidewalk by me, where kids, including my grandkids, play. And I think there's a lot of tragedies out there waiting to happen. I think they're dangerous, and I think a lot of parents, it's easy, oh, I'm just gonna give my kid this e-bike. There's a lot of responsibility goes with that, just like the rules of the road for operating a vehicle. And I'd like to see some laws with some real teeth, and I guarantee it might straighten things out. And question, are these not allowed on?
Yeah, so it's a complicated issue, but the village did pass rules at the beginning of summer that we are actively enforcing. What complicates things is the park district's totally separate entity. We have no jurisdiction over them. We don't set the budget. We don't hire people. We have an intergovernmental agreement to help police their rules, but they set their own rules. But the police
Okay.
are what complicates it more, we got 4 different park districts in the village or south.
Is Lake Park property, or is that Park District?
Lake Park property. So you've got many different agencies there, but what I can tell you is the Roselle Park District, which has Goose Lake and a number of other ones, they only allow Class 1 e-bikes on their trails, and that's with pedal power only, meaning they cannot
Okay.
engage the motor.
See.
So that's
Now, what do you think happens with that?
well, the problem.
The kid pedals the bike, or the kids, I guarantee these kids did not get these bikes to pedal.
So you're correct, right? So, but it gives us a means to enforce it. Now, for the Village of Roselle, we do not allow these on sidewalks. That is absolutely forbidden. They have to be in the street. We also say you have to be 16 years or older, to your point, to actually operate it with motor assist, meaning you can't engage the motor unless you're 16 years or older. And our hope is you've taken the rules of the road at Lake Park High School. Now, the licensing is all done by the state of Illinois. I do not have any jurisdictional control over the Secretary of State's office, but I'm absolutely there with you. This is a motorized vehicle, and it needs to be treated as such instead of like a bicycle like it is currently, and that is something we're dealing with in a number of ways. Now, we do limit things, and based on the speed, there's different classifications. I'm not going to get all through it, but we do outlaw certain ones. But to your point, this is both a parent issue and a child issue. So we actually have parental responsibility ordinance where if that kid gets ticketed, we can also ticket the parent as well, so that they're now responsible. We also have an impoundment ordinance. So unlike other communities, if we get you and you are a nuisance and you're being, you're not following the rule, we can now take your bike away from you, and you have to come in and go through a hearing and everything else. So now, rules, to your point, that's great if you want to follow them. We got a lot of training and education.
They're very
and work
hard
that
to
we have to
follow.
do. And so we've actually had to invest in our own e-bikes, because if you can imagine a vehicle, I'm not going to take a SUV through the parks to chase on an e-bike and create an accident. So
I
we are-
agree 100%.
so we've been doing a lot to try to figure out how we can better equip our police officers to enforce it. What, if you don't mind, if you could give us your contact information, we can follow up later on and give you some information about what our enforcement has been throughout the summer. But a lot of it's been educating, making sure we get the parents, and we've also been working with all the school districts to make sure.
I was gonna say, you do go to the schools and talk about this?
Yep, and we also do a big push before Christmas time, because we know that's when a lot of these things are gonna get purchased, so.
And helmets are not required.
We don't require helmets for bicycles, so when we had that issue in front of the board, we were discussing it, but it felt awkward and difficult. How do you do it for one and not the other? So we did not require a helmet.
And there's no way that they can have a blanket law that anything with a motor should not be on, because you know what happens with the kids in the park. They use the electric part, and then when the cops come, all of a sudden,
Mhm.
they start pedaling. I mean, I got kids going down my block doing wheelies, and I say, come here, man, I want to talk to them. I just want to talk to them.
Yeah.
What do you
Oh,
think?
they're
So what happens, then they come down the other way doing wheelies, and then they go speeding by.
Yeah, if you give us your contact information, we'd be happy to follow up on as far as how the enforcement has been going and give you some more information on that. But we're very aware and concerned about the e-bike issue, so
Okay, I appreciate it.
thank you so much. Yep, if, whichever one wants to go first, if you just come up to the microphone and state your name. Sure, that's fine. If you'd like to do it together, that works for me. Just state both if you're gonna speak, intermixed or whatnot, just, if you don't mind, just stating both your names for the record all at once.
Tom Marino?
Siri Hansen.
Thank you.
I want to, first of all, go off a little bit off course and commend the Roseville Police Department for the professionalism. I had a neighbor pound on my door at 3 in the morning about 6 nights ago. She was terrified. She was home alone and I'm not sure what happened to her. Got out my cell phone. Oh, I got a bar. You should listen to the tape of that. We had a hard time communicating. They stuck with us and they were very good about it. And they did come out and it did help her, but she was distressed and you know, there's a big safety issue here. You got to be able to communicate when you need to communicate. I also read the report. The altitude of the forest preserve makes the whole thing difficult. I mean, it's in there. I appreciated the comment about the cell phones. Check out your microwave oven. Everybody has one of those and they have a greater potential for this. And as far as property values are concerned, I don't think I would buy a house, period, if I couldn't work from home or contact emergency services with my cell phone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I kind of would, well, I got my glasses on. I'm not going to say a lot because I've already spoken to the board about this. I just want real quick, couple of points. As Tom said, it's not safe for us not to be able to make phone calls. It's not we have 1 or 2 bars. We have no bars. We can't talk to each other and we live in the same suburb. We're in a seam circle. Right. I also make a lot of business calls from my home and I've literally had to hang up and call back sometimes 10 times. It's really difficult and embarrassing. So again, I just think for our safety, I know property values. I live 2 houses down from the water reclamation. You can see it from my house and sometimes you can smell it, not too often anymore. But, you know, I feel like that's something that we're going to do because the village needs clean water and we also need to be able to make phone calls. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Is there any other member of the public that wish to address the board at this time? And did you already cede time?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Got a chance. Rafal Pshashowski, 425 South Prospect.
Okay.
I only have a couple other, one on the e-bikes, which I'm wonderful that he did that. And I'm glad you guys made some, you know, rules and laws against that, or for it. So, and some other towns have done it too. And I am very thankful that you guys did not say requires a license. So my daughter has special needs and we did get her an e-bike, but it is not throttle assist. It is only pedal assist. And it's so she can go the 25 miles with us. So, but I know like Elk Grove, like they said, you had to be 16 with a license for any type of class bike. So, I mean, in future, if this kind of evolves, I want you to kind of think of the special needs community because she will never have a license, but her bike will never go more than 20 miles an hour because it only goes as fast as she pedals. So I like that you guys did not say, because I know it was mentioned, like I like that you guys did not state that they had to have a license, you know? And then lastly, only to restate on that Telecommunications Act of 1996, because of that 2021 decision with the U.S. Appellate Court, there are many towns and municipalities that can now actually bring suit against that act and win, because now there's a chink in its armor because they did not address children's vulnerabilities, and they are now have not even responded to that court mandate. So we do have the power to kind of go against that. And especially we have the power since we have it in our ordinance and we don't have to grant the special use permit. That's it. Thank you.
So much. Is there any other members of the public today that wish to address the board? All right, seeing none, I just appreciate everyone's politeness and professionality through it. As we continue through the agenda, there is another opportunity for public comment at the end. There's no opportunity for the public to engage during the rest of the debate for the meeting. So I just want to just encourage our tone to continue on as it has started. So we'll continue on to officials and staff reports. Under my report, just a reminder to everyone that we are a week away, which is hard to believe, from Founders Fest. So we appreciate our partners with the Roselle Park District and putting that on September 4th at Klaus Center. So that is a free event for the community. We started that for the Centennial and it's continued to go on. And so we appreciate the partnership and hope everyone can join us for that. Also, this Thursday is which is hard to believe it, our last Concert in the Park series here outside of Village Hall at Petal Plaza. So another fun family-free event that we've been able to put on, and it's gone on a little bit longer as we had some rain delays this year. So hopefully everyone can join us for the season finale of that. So with that being the case, that is all I have under Mayor's report. Is there a village trustee that has a report tonight? Yes, Trustee Domke.
Just quickly, I have to commend the village. They're very easy to work with when you want to use Petal Plaza. And I think for next year, 2026, people that want to use Petal Plaza for events, it's a smooth transition, very professional village staff that made sure that everything was done right and done safe. And it was just a wonderful thing to work with people that want to make it happen.
Great, thank you so much. Village clerk, village attorney,
No report.
village administrator. We'll continue on to unfinished business. First, we have the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, or non-controversial in nature and will be enacted in one motion. There'll be no discussion on these items unless removed from the consent agenda. Are there any items removed from the consent agenda tonight? Let the record show none. Tonight, we have presentation approval of the village board minutes of September 8th, 2025. Adopt a resolution authorizing the village administrator to purchase Microsoft Office 365 licenses and Microsoft Entra plans from Prescient Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $38,592,000. Approve a permit for a fireworks display at Lake Park High School West Campus on October 10th, 2025. Adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement for design engineering services for the North Roselle Road Gateway Monument signs between the Village of Roselle and Christopher B. Burke Engineering, the amount of $39,665. Pass an ordinance establishing a municipal ticket amnesty program, and adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an assignment and consent to an agreement by and between the Village of Roselle and Synergo Central LLC assignee and Dram Enterprises Incorporated assigner. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Can we have the roll, please?
Ringo?
Aye.
Trustee Domke?
Aye.
Sulanisa?
Aye.
Trustee Della Penna?
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe?
Aye.
Kirkowski?
Aye.
That motion carries. We'll continue on to development and engineering services. Trustee Forsythe.
Thank you, Mayor Pulaski. I would like to move to adopt a resolution approving and authorizing the submittal of a grant application for the Illinois Safe Routes to School program, Bryn Mawr pedestrian improvements at Lake Park High School West Campus.
Second. Thank you so much. And then we'll have our Development Engineering Services Director give a brief overview of the crosswalk in question. Or the street improvements, I guess.
Yes, street improvements. So the 2025 budget, as you know, included a study of potential pedestrian improvements on Bryn Mawr near Lake Park High School and Klaus. We'd gotten several questions, concerns from residents regarding safety of pedestrians crossing, both park users as well as students. We hired Civil Tech Engineering to study the area and come up with a preliminary design. My department and the police department staff and our consultant met with the high school and the park district and discussed their concerns and looked at the various alternatives to address the situation. The preferred alternative is in your board packet, but the key components of it, it's a cost-effective way to increase safety for pedestrians. It maintains separate crossings for the park district path as well as the junior lot. So provides two places for people to safely cross as opposed to funneling them to one that might get ignored. It does add refuge islands at both crossings. So if there is a vehicle coming that is ignoring the stop, they do have a safe place to stop halfway across the street. It adds rectangular rapid flashing beacons, RRFBs, at both crossings. These are activated when the pedestrian is crossing versus only during school hours like it is now. So if somebody's crossing at the park during the summer, there is no flashing light. It also does additional striping of the median from Menching to West End. So there'll be a striped median. This would delineate that it's a no passing zone and also gives the roadway an appearance of being narrower, which would slow traffic down. As David mentioned, that these proposed improvements are estimated to cost about $500,000, but IDOT has this funding opportunity through the Illinois Safe Routes to Schools, which applies for any K through 12 school that it will fund up to $250,000 in construction costs of projects that make biking and walking to school safer and more appealing to students and parents. So what's before you tonight is a resolution to support the project and allow us to submit the grant application.
Any questions about the proposal in front of us right now? All right, could we have the roll then?
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Della Penna.
Aye.
Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you so much.
Next, I would like to move to pass an ordinance amending the building code of the Village of Roselle, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois.
Second. Thank you so much. Any discussion on this item? All right, perfect. All right, could we have the roll then?
Forsythe.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Trustee Lanisa.
Aye.
Trustee Della Penna.
Aye.
Trejo.
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you so much.
And lastly, I would like to move to pass an ordinance granting a special use for the property commonly known as 400 South Prospect Street, Roselle, Illinois, cell phone tower.
Second. Thank you so much. We'll have our Community Development Manager, Karen Bricks, start off with the presentation.
So tonight
Can you check the microphone? Sorry, you're not coming through very.
how about now?
That's a little bit better. Thank you. Brian's proposal didn't get, implemented yet for new microphone.
Right. So tonight, for consideration is PZ 25-1138, 400 South Prospect, a cell tower special use permit. Cell towers are regulated by section 2-12, telecommunications of the zoning ordinance. And below on the screen, I've kind of itemized all the zoning code requirements and then the actual situation of the proposed tower. The location of the tower is approximately 150 feet west of the Kemmerling Park tennis courts. It's 234 feet from the primary residence at 381 South Roselle Road and 209 feet from the primary residence at 405 South Roselle Road. The code requirement is the setback is 110% of the height of the tower. So for an 80-foot tower, the required minimum setback is 88 feet. So the proposed tower meets that requirement. The design of the tower as shown in your packets, it's called a monopine. It looks like a giant pine tree. There's some renderings showing it from different views in the packet as well. They're proposing an 8-foot privacy fence around the secured towered area and 27 arborvitae trees. And that's what the code requires, 8-foot fence and then natural screening of 6 feet in height. We consider trees natural screening. And then there will be room for 2 additional carriers on the proposed tower, and the code requirement is at least 1 additional carrier. So Insight Inc. on behalf of Verizon Wireless submitted the application for the cell tower at Kemmerling Park. The Park District owns Kemmerling Park and has approved a lease with the applicant. The public hearing was held on August 5th, 2025. Approximately 12 residents spoke during the public hearing, and comments focused primarily on the tower's proximity to nearby homes and Roselle Middle School, and then also concerning potential health impacts. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 2-3, recommending against approval for reasons that I'm going to go into. So something that's been mentioned are alternate locations. So the first would be like a less residential area and or further from a school. Kemmerling site was chosen due to the demonstrated coverage gaps shown in the Verizon coverage map, feedback from residents, and feedback from Park District staff and visitors. The zoning ordinance does not establish a minimum distance from a school. District 12 was notified of the public hearing, and no representative from either the school board or the administrative staff has reached out to the village or came to the public hearing in support or opposition of the application. Devlin wastewater treatment plant has also been mentioned. Insight did reach out to the village about constructing a tower at Devlin prior to contacting the Park District. And we've received numerous inquiries about Devlin over the years. There are security concerns. It's a gated facility. You need special card access to get into the facility. So having people to maintain the tower coming in and out was not great for something that's critical infrastructure for the village. There's limited site access and then space constraints. Due to the future expansion, it would limit one small area that could accommodate a tower, and that would require access easements from private property owners outside of village boundaries. Also, Devlin being a wastewater treatment plant, it's designed to be kind of in the lowest area of the village, so everything flows to there. Therefore, it sits at a lower elevation than Kemmerling and would necessitate a taller tower for comparable service coverage. Small cells have been mentioned as well. The village has regularly engages with a telecommunications professional who helps review our permits and things like that. And so we reached out to him, third party kind of person, and we were reminded that small cells are not a replacement for a traditional tower. They're designed to fill in the coverage gaps and typically must be located within 800 feet of an existing tower. Kemmerling Park, the area is broadly deficient of coverage, so small cell technology is not viable. Co-location, there are no existing towers within the gap area that Verizon or any other carrier could co-locate on. The only nearby structure is the tower at the municipal campus next to the police station, and that currently only holds radio equipment. And we, 15 years ago maybe, had a study done. You cannot add any new equipment to this tower. It's at its structural capacity. So any additional equipment would require the complete reconstruction and rebuild of the tower. So that's not really an option either. And then the Federal Telecommunications Act, federal law limits the village's discretion in regulating wireless facilities. Municipalities may regulate siting through zoning, which is the section 2-12 of the zoning ordinance, but cannot take actions that effectively prohibit service or unreasonably discriminate amongst providers. Federal law prohibits municipalities from considering the health impacts related to radio frequency emissions, and the FCC regulates that as part of their own permitting. Therefore, they are the authority. So any permit for a cell tower would have to meet the FCC standards, as well as standards for aviation safety, making sure there's not a possibility of like a plane flying into it, and then also registration.
Any questions for Karen on the zoning? I know we'll have Mr. Castaldo or Counselor Castaldo comment on some legal stuff, but any questions from the planning or the P&Z or planning and zoning perspective from anyone? Obviously, she's with us all night, so I'll turn it over to our attorney just to give a little bit more on the legal side of it.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and I think staff has done a good job of summarizing what our memo incorporated as far as those points. The only thing that I would add is that when considering the application and considering alternate sites, those sites have to not only be available legally, they also would have to be available technically. So they would have to actually be available and be feasible. So to my knowledge at this point, I don't know of any alternate sites that have been proposed. And if there are any out there that are actually feasible within the coverage gap.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God. So we have Greg DeBona from Insight Inc., who's going to make his own presentation, and answer any questions from the Insight perspective.
Great, thank you.
Hello. Hi, my name is Greg DeBona. I'm representing both Vertical Bridge and Verizon on this presentation here. I'm going to start by speaking a little bit about wireless communications, and then I'm going to discuss Verizon Wireless, the selection process, and how we chose this location for our facility. Wireless communications is a huge part of our everyday lives. I'm willing to bet that everyone in this room, as the gentleman mentioned earlier, has a phone similar to mine. And I'm certain you all rely on these devices for critical personal, professional, and business activities on a daily basis. We use our phones for everything, from social media to finance to shopping. The devices do it all for us now. It's also important to note that most homes are now wireless only. As of 2022, 3 years ago, 73% of homes had cut the cord and no longer have landlines. Not only is it vital for our personal lives, but it's also essential for public safety. Having a reliable wireless network provides the ability to make 911 calls in an emergency, again, referenced by this gentleman earlier. Over 80% of 911 calls are made from mobile phones. Location accuracy is also important, so first responders can accurately pinpoint where the caller is calling from. And a network for fire, police, and EMTs to rely on when using their devices to assist with their jobs. Verizon Wireless operates the nation's most reliable wireless network, and they are constantly monitoring this network to ensure they're providing the coverage their subscribers expect from them. A need was identified in this area, and a search ring was issued to my firm to go out and find a location for a new facility. The first thing I did was look for existing structures. That would be cell towers, tall buildings, water tanks, etc. And it's preferred not only by Verizon to co-locate on an existing structure, but it's also typically a requirement by most zoning ordinances. After a thorough review, no viable structures were identified to co-locate on in the area. At that point, I then reviewed the zoning code and started reaching out to viable property owners to gauge interest for a new structure. I inquired with the Public Works Department regarding the Devlin Water Treatment Facility. I was told that they were not interested, likely for the reasons that were listed there. We had initial discussions with the Baptist Church, which is also located on the same street as the water treatment facility. But after some time, the two sides could not come to an agreement, and we ended up walking away from that property. We then approached the Park District. They expressed interest in the improved coverage the facility would provide for their staff and residents. We negotiated and agreed to a lease agreement along with the proposed design and location of the tower. As you can see in these before and after coverage maps, this location fits quite nicely into Verizon's existing network of sites, and it fills the coverage deficiency shown in the map. The location, design, and appearance of the facility are located on the next slide. This is the proposed location. This is a site plan showing the tower's compound with the Verizon's lease area on the corner, and you can kind of see it, but there's two spots on the top on the northern section of the compound for future carriers as well. And then this is the elevation page, which shows the monopine style tower, made to look like a pine tree. This tower is to be placed on the back of the lot, set back from the street and existing residential buildings. As you can see in these photo simulations, it'll be situated adjacent to existing trees, which provide natural screening and help it blend in. And as mentioned, the design tower will handle up to 3 carriers with space on the tower and in the compound. And here's another picture from Roselle Road, the entrance to the park. Really can't even see the tower. And as I wrap up, I just want to point out that what's being proposed is not unique. Cell towers have become a part of our landscape. There are towers located in and around parks all around the Chicagoland area. These 3 examples from Itasca, Downers Grove, and Naperville are just a few. None of these towers are concealed or designed to blend in, and all of them are much taller than what we're proposing here at Kemmerland. Public parks are often the only available spaces for carriers to locate their facilities to provide coverage into the dense residential areas that surround them. And at this point, I would like to thank you for your time. Appreciate your consideration. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the board? Trustee Domke?
We'll ask that one question about the Village Hall Tower here. I would guess that it's too expensive to tear that one down and make a tower for multiple use with the village and Verizon.
I mean, it can be done. I think this police station, the one right next door, the tower, is a little bit further away from the area that Verizon and Vertical Bridge had us looking. It really did center around down by the south edge of that park. Really, the middle school was really the center of the area that they had us looking, the search ring.
But to your point, one of your preferences was to find a site that was either
Well,
having
co-locatable,
something or a
yeah.
building or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, cost obviously factors into it at times, but yes, if the tower needed to be replaced, it would be extremely expensive.
And the other thing is, how have you handled people who were upset about a cell tower in the past when they're talking about their property values? Do you have any history on working with that?
I would cite that I just got a few notes here that from some of the comments from earlier is that most of the property valuation examples that were cited out there were from 2014 to 2017, which is well over a decade ago for some of them. We have valuation studies from as recent as a couple weeks ago, and that will state there were no negative impacts to a cell tower. And in 2025, most people check their phone when they're looking at prospective homes. They're walking into a home. My wife is a real estate broker, and she's had clients that check their coverage when they walk into an open house. So I mean, it's an argument that they'd like to make, but I mean, I think that there's more argument to be made that with more people working from home nowadays and being connected everywhere is important, that I think having good coverage in your home is extremely vital for people nowadays.
And Karen, can you elaborate a little bit more on the co-location on the police pole?
Yeah, so right now it serves primarily for our emergency services. So our connection with like DuPage County, DUCOM, all those things for police and fire. And we're the owner of the tower. So any reconstruction of the tower that has been discussed with wireless carriers in the past, they've not agreed to the village continuing to own the tower because that's what its current main purpose is to provide those facilities for emergency services. So we would want to maintain ownership in the future. And in the carriers that I've spoken to since I've been here, don't want to build a new tower and then have the village still own it. And we're not willing to give up ownership of a tower that serves.
A separate tower, another tower. Would Verizon put another tower at Village Hall?
I don't think that would meet our requirements of.
And I'm not sure where else you would be able to put it because they have a 50 by 50 lease area around the tower to hold all of the individual equipment. So I'm not even sure where you could locate one on Village Hall property.
Other questions from the board? Trustee Lanisa?
Can you tell me what the distance from the cell tower as to how it improves the coverage? Like, is it a mile away from it? Is it a block away from it? How far from the tower improves the coverage?
I mean, I can go back to the coverage maps here. It's about a half-mile radius around is where it provides the most impactful. You can see the blue is really when you have, if you look at the maps, it's the blue is the good coverage, and then the green is where it starts to kind of degrade a little bit, but you're still getting, multiple bars and getting good coverage there too. And there's handoff to the existing sites in the area. As you can see in the before map, there's just such a huge gap that these sites struggle to hand off. So as you drive down Roselle Road, some of you might experience dropped calls, that's exactly why. It's because of this huge gap in between the existing facilities.
So how far away is the handoff location towers?
Well, it all depends. I mean, each of them operate, it depends on their height and how, the vegetation around them. I mean, there's multiple factors that go into propagation of each specific site. And an engineer created this based off of elevation, vegetation, and the height of the antennas, what's around it. So for this particular site, the RF engineer said it was about a half-mile radius in each direction.
So just so I'm clear on this, the people this is helping is only within a half a mile off.
Well, I mean, if you look at the map, you can see that it's suggesting that the coverage would extend much further than that to hand off to the other sites. But the footprint for the main impact, I guess, for the best impact would be about a half mile. It doesn't mean that once you travel a half mile out, you're going to lose it.
Just to build off of that, just to clarify, your handoff towers, is it safe to assume that it is the tower that is located adjacent to Hampton in the Park off of Central Avenue and then the water tower? Are those your other two? And maybe you don't have that information, but I'm trying to look at the map and that's what I'm referring, or Medina and Irving. Okay. Got it. Thank you. Other questions from the board?
One.
Yeah, trustee Dalpano.
Since those artificial plastic pine needles will fall off, do you have a way to mitigate, because they're not all going to fall off just inside that enclosure?
I've got Doug Barker here from Vertical Bridge.
Okay, thank you.
Doug Barker, I'm here representing Vertical Bridge. These towers are constructed, the pine needles are actually designed to not fall off of the tower. The biggest thing that you will see as far as degradation on them is fading from the sun over the course of 20 years or so. Then they'll start having some fading as far as that goes, and we go and replace those to keep them up to speed with the community and with the ordinance that you all have in place, so that it's not an eyesore. That's the exact opposite of.
I was more worried about the microplastics getting in the water supply.
Oh yeah, no, they're not. They're designed to stay adhered and not come off storms. And I mean, they adhere to the same wind loading requirements as the tower itself.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Prokowski.
So you mentioned the half-mile radius. I know that like time of day can affect radio, how far they can travel, because like the ionizing of the atmosphere can cause the radio waves to bounce back down. Is half mile the average, or is that the minimum kind of expected distance?
I don't have that answer from the engineer. I mean,
Typically, when he was talking about a half mile, that is just the basically in-building coverage is what when you look at the blue on there, that is, if you're in your basement, you're going to still have coverage. When you get outside of that half mile, you see the green areas there that extend at least another half mile out to connect to the other existing towers. If you're not in a basement, you've got coverage that, well, those coverage areas won't increase and decrease based on the weather. They increase and decrease based on capacity. So the more users that are in there using the service, will have some shrinking and growing of those coverage areas. But when they design these, they design them for whenever they have the maximum usage to be able to still hand off to the adjacent towers. So in
all likelihood, if you're looking at the coverage at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be substantially greater than this. And whenever you're looking at the coverage during rush hour, it's going to be very similar.
Trustee Trejo?
A question about, it looks like north of this, where there's that blue, where those arrows are, the proposed coverage, where it's like very dark purple, and then just north of that, it looks like there's another coverage gap on the map. Is that just Verizon's coverage gap, or is that, or is that something else that you would explore? Like, because it looks just directionally, I mean, it's not like a great map, so it looks directionally like it's by Turner Pond, but is that something that you guys are thinking about, or is there an ability to supplement this tower with small cell technology that would bring coverage to that north part that's currently like bare right now?
Verizon somewhat dictates where we go. It isn't something that would be coverable from small cell. Depending on traffic counts, they would most likely look at another short tower in that area. And usage is really what's driven a lot of this. When a lot of these towers were originally built, the antennas were much higher, covering a lot larger area. As neighborhoods and growth occurs and the usage is in there, they can only handle so much traffic at one time. The antennas come down, covers a smaller area, covers a smaller amount of users, and they put the smaller towers in to fill that in. And that's kind of what you're seeing with some of these holes here. So in all likelihood, there would be there may be a co-locatable structure out in that area, or a building, or a transmission line, or something that they can go on. It's not necessarily going to be a new tower, but it would be a new macro installation.
Trustee Domke?
So to kind of piggyback what you just said, so this cell tower you're putting here is more suburban friendly than the stuff they put out in the farms and stuff. 80 feet is a low tower, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Most of what we build out in rural areas are 250 to 300 feet.
So is it kind of customized for this kind of area?
Oh, 100%. Yes, sir. And I mean, the more towers is actually, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's a reduction in RF emissions. When you build one tower that's covering a huge amount of area, they have to put a lot of, put more power to it and to cover the larger areas. When you have more towers covering smaller areas, it's just very low output on the RF side.
Other questions from the board? All right. Any other discussion or comments or questions from the board at this time? Going once. Going twice. All right. We do have a motion and a second, so I'll ask the clerk to run the roll.
Steve Forsythe?
Aye.
Steve Burkowski?
Aye.
Steve Domke?
Aye.
Sue Lanisa?
Aye.
Bill Penna?
Aye.
Trejo?
Nay. All right. With 5 in favor and 1 opposed, it passes. Thank you so much. We have nothing under administration, fire, police, or public works, but finance. Trustee Lanisa.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to approve and make a motion to approve the accounts payable list for September 22nd, 2025 in the amount of $2,414,849.38.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, could we have the roll, please?
Sue Lanisa?
Aye.
Steve Della Penna?
Aye.
Trejo?
Aye.
Burkowski?
Aye.
Steve Domke?
Aye.
Trustee Forsythe?
Aye.
And that motion carries. We have nothing under new business tonight. We are gearing up for budget season, so stay tuned for more information. I know we've got a lot of other discussion topics coming up in the future, so we'll continue on. We have another opportunity for Village Board public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board at this time? Yep, if you just state your name for the record again and approach the podium.
Tom Barino. Two things. One, almost everything that was discussed today, I've had a conversation recently. And about these e-bikes. It's like some parents here are trying to find a creative way to win a Darwin Award. You see these kids flying around, it is a bad thing. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, well, the whole e-bike thing looks like it has to be a state issue and not be a local issue too. Very possible. Talking to my plumber, he lives on Bryn Mawr, unincorporated. And he's talking about how people speed up and down Bryn Mawr. And I get that. I live on Walnut. They speed up and down there too. But I said, yeah, sometimes I open it up a little bit there, but I don't do it a lot because I know there's a special police assignment. A county policeman takes that. And he goes, yeah, you know, it's on my tax bill. I go, it's on my tax bill too. If we had home rule, couldn't we get ourselves out of paying township taxes?
So, no, unfortunately not. Township is something that we all have to pay for, but what I will say is parts of, Bryn Mawr, especially near West Campus, are unincorporated, in which case we do not have policing authority. That is something that the sheriff's office has the ability to, only enforce those ordinances there, so.
Point is that I'm spending my tax dollars for his police people, but I have my own already and they're pretty good.
Well, they're coming from the county, so we're all paying for those too, so.
It's a special assessment. It's on my property taxes. It's on yours too.
Well, not for, well, correct, but there's other services the township provides that are available to all of us. They provide a lot of health and human services, especially the senior center, and they provide other, like which, I mean, love it or hate it, they do the property assessments.
Didn't
Everyone.
Evanston use their home rule privileges to escape their township taxes?
Not to that extent, and I'll let the village minister comment on that.
Did you say Evanston? Yeah, they're in a unique position that doesn't apply to Roselle under state law and townships. They're coterminous, that's the difference.
It almost feels to me like, you know,
I think,
doesn't Itasca start taxing me too?
well, I think there's a lot of pros and cons on township government, and I'd love to talk about it off the record, but,
Okay.
which may or may not show my cards, but
Sure, I burnt my 3 minutes, but thank you.
no, I appreciate it, thank you. Yes, trustee Trejo.
All that out. I just went on the Bloomingdale Township website, and that was actually approved by a voter referendum in 1991 to increase the taxes for that extra patrol. That was voted on by all residents of Bloomingdale Township.
Thank you so much. Is there any other members of the public that wish to address the board at this time? The record show none. There's no other business for discussion tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Any abstentions? Meeting is adjourned at 8:30.